What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream from the 10-7 MMA Show. We are back with our Monday show. Thank you, everybody who has been following along with our show and with our journey, talking about mixed martial arts, the sport that we love so much. The sport that really the only sport that I watch, actually, and the sport that Justin is a professional in. If you don't know Justin Guitar Hero James, I should say, has had 5 fights in the UFC and is still fighting, has a fight coming up on May 24th, which I'm coming to, and I got my tickets, by the way, cage side. I think I'm in like the second or the third row. So tell us a little bit about your upcoming fight before we dive into all the craziness that happened this last weekend at UFC Fight Night in St. Louis.
So, I was in the UFC for a hot second, took a neck injury, had to get neck surgery, had neck surgery last year. And man, I'm just on my up and up trying to come back. Got a really tough opponent. I can't pronounce his name. He's an Asian fighter from one championship, very strong kickboxer. With a record of 9-2, and Sean Shelby, Dana White are going to be there, man. I'm going to go out. I'm going out on my shield, man. I'm slinging them. Everyone advised me to try to take this cat down. That's just not what I do. I got you there. I got my family there. I got all my friends, all my clients, all the kids that I watch. So, I'm just really showing them, battle through some adversity here of these last couple months or year or two, and, show even after the highest pieces of adversity, we can persevere and get through this and hopefully get back to the UFC after a win here.
Heck yeah, that'd be so dope. And I think we got a bunch of people from LA coming as well. Hopefully that will be joining. But either way, I'm going to be there. I think, like I said, second or third row cage side. I got tickets. I'm at least going to bring one of my friends with me. It's going to be awesome. And I cannot wait. And I cannot wait to see you dominate and keep this train going. I think the UFC and other people, hopefully they're going to see too, like, I don't know. You're just the whole package, man. You got the whole thing. You got the talk down. You got the fighting style down. So yeah, I'm really pumped for you, and I think you deserve it. Let's see what goes down, but I cannot wait to come to the fight. All right, that's May 24th on a Friday. If you guys are in Vegas, it's gonna be at the Virgin Hotel, so make sure to come check it out if you can. And Selena's back. She says, "Hi guys, thank you so much for staying with us and always showing up. And we know the time difference with you in France, so we really appreciate you sticking around and checking us out on this journey." Okay, so we had a lot of things going down this weekend at UFC St. Louis. I mean, it was unbelievable, actually. Now, there was we're going to talk about this kind of starting with the main event with Derrick Lewis, but there's a lot of stuff that happened. And one of the fights that I was so excited to see was Robelis Despagne coming back again. He was 5-0. He actually lost this last weekend. But we're going to talk about that and talk about what his future holds for him in the UFC. If anything, I think there is still a future for him for sure. But I want to talk to Justin about that and get his take. All right. Western Mass Climber says we're early. Yes, we did start a touch early. We want to get going. We're excited. What can we say? All right. Let's start at the top, at the main card. We had Derrick Lewis coming in and winning again at the age of 39, fighting a very, very dangerous up-and-comer, very dangerous prospect. If you did get a chance to watch this fight, it was wild. Derrick Lewis lost that first round, almost assuredly lost that first round. And then he comes in. I mean, he reversed mount a couple times. He was going for takedowns. Like it was so much fun. And he ends up winning. Now, Justin, before I turn it over to you to get your thoughts, I just want to play a little clip. I know he's not your favorite, but MMA Guru talks very interestingly about this fight. So let's flip it over to him first. And I just want to hear his analysis, and then we're going to jump into it. Here we go.
Early in round 2, he's cracking Rodrigo with big shots, elbows as well, like clean elbows right across the chin. And Rodrigo's taking them very well, ending up in the clinch. Both guys throwing each other around. Eventually, Rodrigo ends up on top again. Derrick Lewis gets mounted and just gets up out of it. Never mount Derrick Lewis. Stay in half guard. When are you fucking heavyweights going to learn that? How many more people do you just need to see him just rise out of mount from before you realize to keep half guard the entire round? All good, though. Derrick Lewis gets back up, ends up on top. Not enough time to do anything. Round 3, he just puts Rodrigo away. Straight 1-2, bap, down the pipe, wobbles him bad, puts him away. Derrick Lewis wins by 3rd round TKO. Good performance. Got nude, got his ass out.
Okay, we're gonna stop there. So yeah, he did moon the audience, which was hilarious. He's 39. They asked him at the presser afterwards, how many more do you got in you, right? It's a question people ask when you're 39, I guess. And he's like, hey, I got like 6 fights left on my contract, so 6. He's like, there you go, I'm fighting them all out. Anyways, Justin, all right, let me turn it over to you. It was a very interesting fight. I think a lot of people counted Derrick Lewis out, just like the previous fight where he came in with the flying knee. He gets the job done in amazing fashion. Yeah, what are your thoughts, and what do you see next for Derrick Lewis?
Dude, Derrick Lewis is just a dog, man. To get in there, and I do credit MMA Guru for saying that. It's sometimes better to sit in half guard, or if you're gonna play someone like Derrick Lewis, you gotta stay in like a low mount. You can't get your hips too high because, from my understanding, is he has like unnatural power in his bucking ability and his reversal ability from when someone mounts him. With that being said, I mean, are you really surprised that he found the knockout? I mean, Derrick Lewis has that one-shot knockout power that not everybody has, not even all heavyweights have. And I mean, we've seen it time and time again. When he fought Volkov, in my opinion, he lost every round of that fight. And in the last 10 seconds, Volkov's still standing and striking. He ended up sleeping him with like 10 seconds left. Derrick Lewis is a dangerous, dangerous human being. And honestly, on any given day, I really think he can land one big shot on any heavyweight and knock him out.
Sorry, just unmuting because I have my my gardeners here right now, so the air blower. I hope it's not too loud, guys. I apologize. But anyways, yeah, he does, and it's funny. Like you watch him, the way he throws a punch, there's something in that just mechanically looks so perfect. And you might look at him and maybe say, hey, he's not like the most ripped guy or whatever, but there's something in his mechanics, I think, that makes him have that unbelievable knockout power. So it was incredible. Now I'm gonna pull up in the rankings exactly where he's at right now. I know the rankings are gonna get updated tomorrow. But what do you see next? 39. By the way, they broke the record in in St. Louis, I think, for the highest gate up to this point for a UFC fight night with Derrick Lewis headlining. So, I mean, dude, I don't know. That's huge. Like I think he's got so much potential in this division. People absolutely love him. I love him. He's so much fun to watch. Where do you see him going next?
I mean, honestly, Derrick Lewis is the people's champ, dude. I mean, I think that anybody he wants, he can fight. I think after this big win, especially a knockout win, taking his pants off, putting a little show on after the fight, I really think the UFC is going to ask him who he wants. And I think they're going to give him who he wants. And I'm not really sure where that is or who that is. But honestly, whoever he decides to fight, I think he deserves. He keeps going out there. He keeps putting on great shows. He keeps getting knockout finishes. He's put in bad positions. He keeps getting out of them, and he keeps rising to the top. I think Derrick Lewis gets whoever he wants.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just going to quickly look at the rankings, and we got to move on to the next topic. If you do look over here, we've got right around him, we've got Rosenstruck fighter, great striker. That could be interesting. Other people ahead of him. Sergey Spivak could be interesting. Tybura could be interesting. He already fought Jailton Almeida. So he's got a lot of fighters. Who knows? Maybe a rematch with Volkov. I think there's a lot of really interesting options. So, yeah, man, he's killing it, having almost like a resurgence at this point. So we love it. Can't wait to see it and see what's next. All right, moving on. Holy smokes. Next topic, what's next for Chase Hooper? Okay, so me and Justin already talked about Chase Hooper before the show started a little bit because Justin wanted to fight Chase back in the day. So I just want to start by giving a little bit of my thoughts, and then I want to turn over to Justin. One thing about Chase Hooper, if you know his background, if you listened to his interviews, he actually is on the MMA Hour today. I haven't listened yet, but I'm going to check it out tonight. He is one of the most interesting guys to listen to at the young age of 24. He's so wise and mature. I think he's already married. He talks a lot about sort of wanting that family life and that stability at an early age, why he got married so young. And I think I give it a ton of respect. He's so mature. He's the one person that I remember in one of his interviews, he's like, the thing about confidence, because I think somebody asked him, so you finally feeling confident? He's like, the thing about confidence is it's not like you build it and it's there. You have to keep feeding it and nurturing it because you can have it one day, not have it the next day, and then be more confident the day after. And that's so true. And I love that. Again, why I love listening to UFC fighters or fighters in general talk about mindset. But anyways, he looked to me incredible. I know it was a bit of a controversial decision at the end of the day for the tap, right? For the win. But I mean, dude, it was pure domination, probably even potentially 10-8 rounds. He looked like a Muay Thai fighter. He looked like a Muay Thai fighter on the feet. I mean, his striking looked incredible. He tagged him early, an overhand right, I believe. Hold on, I'm just going to mute you. I'm just going to mute you for a second, Justin. We're getting a lot of background noise, so I'm just muting you for a second. But anyways, we had all this incredible. Hold on one second, Louisa. Let me just make sure to look at the camera. Yeah, it's cool. We had all. He looked so good on the striking in terms of like his setups, his positioning. I mean, I seriously was blown away. And then once he got it to the ground, absolutely unbelievable. The scrambles, the position adjustments were amazing until he finally got that incredible darce. I was blown away. I cannot wait to see what's next for him because he's actually one of my, I'd say, top 10 favorite fighters in the UFC. I like everything about him. But Justin, what were your thoughts on this fight performance?
Dude, Chase Hooper is maturing into a man. When I was in the UFC, a couple 3 years ago, that's the guy I wanted. I thought he was scrawny. He had a great has a great grappling base, but he's maturing into a very, very tough fighter. His kickboxing is going that's where I thought his weak point was. I thought, like, when I was looking for him, like, dude, that's the matchup I need, because I really thought he lacked in kickboxing. But dude, he came out, he looked like a Muay Thai fighter, and to back that up with the grappling base that he has, dude,
Yeah.
he's incredible, man. And I think the sky's the limit for him. He's training hard. He's loyal to his friends. He's loyal to his family, which honestly, I know people are like, well, that doesn't matter. That matters a lot. That just talks about, your dedication. When you show loyalty to the people around you and your coach and your family and your gym, that just says, how dedicated you are and how you're going to do everything you can to get to the top. And I really believe Chase Hooper's doing the right things to get to the top. And I wouldn't mind seeing him in the top 15 here really soon, if not already, after that fight.
Awesome. Now, somebody mentioned in the comments, we see this comment, Hooper versus Ribovics would be a great matchup given what Hooper proved he can do on his feet this weekend. What are your thoughts? I'm not familiar with Ribovics. Hold on, let me see here. Or what do you see next for him? Or do you see a different fighter for him?
Dude, I don't really have anything for Chase. I mean, I'm just hoping that, what's his ranking? Right? If he's trying to crank into the top 15, we got to look at like the guy that's ranked 14th, the guy that's ranked 15th. It was just such an incredible performance he put on. And I know it was a controversial tap, but Chase was winning the whole fight anyways. It wasn't like he was losing and then caught the tap late in the fight. Dude, he whooped the guy's ass in and out. That big hematoma on the top of his head. I can understand why the guy kind of was pissed about the stoppage, but at the end of the day, if it went to decision at that point, he lost anyways.
Right. Yeah. So he's not on the official UFC athlete rankings. I don't see him up there yet. Well, I'm curious to see where he comes in this tomorrow when they update the rankings.
Who's the top 15 right now? Does it say?
Okay, so hold on. Let me just double check one thing. Hold on. So if I go to Chase Hooper, okay, here, let's see this. So in lightweight,
Chase Hooper, Ryan Hall.
Okay, wait, let me take a look here. So lightweight, we got at the bottom, we got Bobby Green. That could be interesting. Rafael, RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos. And then at 13, Benoit Saint Denis. We got Jalen Turner, Dan Hooker. Any of those fights I think would be super interesting. Do you think he's ready for a top 15 right off the bat for his next fight?
Well, if we're talking lightweight or featherweight.
Lightweight.
Okay, lightweight. Why not? Fuck it. He had such a great performance. Why not? That's what he wants, man. Chase has been around for a long time. Chase has been in the UFC for a long time, and he doesn't duck competition. He just looked great in his last fight. Why not? Maybe it's time. Maybe he's matured. He looks like he put on a lot of size.
Yeah.
He looked like a scrawny kid in his last couple fights. He looked like a grown man in this fight. I say throw him in there with the dogs and see where he lands.
Yeah, I say so too. It was so exciting. And I think I encourage people, listen to his interview today on the MMA Hour. Just absolutely fantastic. Okay, before we move on, just quickly, I'm going to show you a little bit of MMA Guru's thoughts because I thought he had some really great things to say. And then we're going to move on to talking about Robelis Despagne and see what we think is next for him. All right, here, let's check this out here. Okay.
He drops Vyacheslav Borshev in round one. He's not even looking at the fucking punch that he throws. He clips Borshev with it, gets on top, and beats the shit out of Borshev in that round. Borshev did a great job of surviving. And honestly, I felt really bad for Borshev here because he didn't get off any success whatsoever. In round two, he got taken down again. And don't get me wrong. He was going to probably lose that fight. I'm not saying that if he didn't, he didn't tap. That's what I'm saying here. He did not tap. He was looking to find where the body of Hooper was in comparison to his arm. He was just feeling out where he was with his arm. And the reason why he stretched out his arm like that was to create space between his shoulder and his neck when he was in that choke. So he didn't tap, and he wouldn't have tapped to that choke that was in. I really don't think he would have done. I think he was fine. And the problem with that is you've robbed Borshev of losing properly, but you've made him take all that whooping for nothing, He took all that beating for the result to be the same regardless. And in his mind, Borshev was thinking, just get through this round. I'll be back up on my feet. I'll stuff the takedown. All right, round 2, it didn't go my way, but we'll find our way up. We'll get back to our feet. We'll start working on the feet afterwards, and we'll stop this takedown in round 3. And he survives all of that beating from Chase Hooper just to be fucking, you tapped. I didn't. Yeah, you did. It's over.
So it's just an interesting take to think about. Oh, I think we lost Justin. He's going to pop back on in a second. But I think it's an interesting take as well to consider the fact, like, hey, fine, maybe it wasn't a tap, and that's super unfortunate, but there's not much you can really take away from Chase Hooper because he had such a dominant performance. And look, you never know what could have happened in the 3rd round. I get it. But regardless of the outcome, I think we got to say that Chase Hooper has moved up to a new level, and he's definitely deserving of a very, very cool fight coming up next. Okay, now we're going to move on to a topic that it's a bit of a bummer because I was really, really excited about watching Robelis Despagne come back again. So if you guys don't know who Robelis Despagne is, he is a Cuban fighter who is a Taekwondo gold medalist. He is absolutely unbelievable on the feet. He had basically a record of 5-0 coming into this last fight. His first victory in the UFC, he won in like 21 seconds. It was ridiculous by knockout. So Robelis was coming in today, or on Saturday, to his next fight, and it was very exciting. We were going to see if he was real or not, right? And obviously, the thing that we were all worried about was his grappling. Was his grappling or was his takedown defense going to stand up to another UFC fighter that had a really good wrestling base? And unfortunately, the answer to this was he did not have the chops, or he does not have the chops yet to really defend against wrestling attacks. So I'm going to turn it over one more time to MMA Guru because he gives really good insight on this. And then Justin, I want to turn it over to you because really what I want to know is, does this guy still have a future in the UFC? I think probably yes, but I want to know what your thoughts are. All right, here we go.
Fair enough, yeah. We didn't actually know what level he was and if he was any good whatsoever. But I just assume you know what an underhook is. I assume you know what getting your guard back is. I assume you know what getting your hips clear, because you know what I'll say about Waldo Cortez Acosta here. He won the fight and he dominated the fight. And honestly, Robelis didn't look like he had shit for him on the feet either. Shitty punches, soy kicks, no steam on them whatsoever. Honestly, kicked like a pansy, punched like a soy boy. Not much Robelis on the feet whatsoever in this fight outside of the grappling situations. But I want to talk about the grappling of Waldo Cortez Acosta here. It was shit. The entries were awful. The control that he had was awful. He was giving Robelis a chance to get back up in that fight. There were moments where he was postured over Robelis on the ground with no control of Robelis Despagne's hips or legs. And he was just sort of there, lurched over the top, squatting over the top of Robelis, just pushing down and like occasionally hitting him. And I'm like, dude, Robelis, get your hips back under you. Get back up to your feet. It wasn't like Waldo wet blanketed him and you're like, what can Robelis do? There was moments where you were like, come on, Robelis, just fucking, this is your chance to get back up. And he just.
Okay, so that's just a little take from MMA Guru. So obviously the grappling skills, the grappling take, or whatever, the takedown defense, all that stuff seemed to be massively lacking. Just the basics of jiu-jitsu for Robelis Despagne. Knowing all this, Justin, right? He lost basically unanimous decision, lost every round because of that. What are your thoughts on this prospect of being like the next Francis Ngannou? What do you think? Is this still a possibility if he works diligently at those deficiencies?
I don't think he's the next Francis. I think he's just a little too far behind, and he's old, and at the end of the day, MMA Guru kind of contradicts himself there too, and that's why I just think these podcast guys are hilarious. He's like, get your hips back under you, or just stand. And then just stand up. That's not really how it works. It's either or. You try to regain your guard. You're obviously not trying to stand up. But regardless, yeah, the guy. He did. He was exposed, dude. He's an old Taekwondo fighter. He's super athletic. Do I think he has a future in the UFC? Yeah, I do. Only because he has that one-shot knockout power. And although he didn't display it in this fight, he displayed it in his last fight and a couple before that. I think the UFC is going to hold on to him because he is still exciting on the feet. I think that they need to match him up against another striker, and let them bang it out. Because again, kind of like Alex Pereira, Alex still hasn't wrestled, hasn't fought a really high level wrestler in my opinion yet. And I think that if they give him the Alex Pereira treatment and just give him strong strikers, even if he loses, at least it's going to be exciting. And it's even if he gets knocked out, it's going to be exciting. But again, he has that one-shot knockout power. I think the UFC will hold on to him to build some of their fighters, like an up-and-coming guy that they want to get a good win against a big, strong dude. I think that's the guy they're going to go to.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because he's old. Like, I just don't think he's young enough to become the champ. I don't think he has enough time to train. And when I say time, I don't mean time of the day. I just mean years, because it takes years to get up to that high, to get a world-class level. And if I'm not mistaken, he's in his late 30s or 40s.
30.
And he's 30 what?
I think he's 35. I'm going to double check right now. That's my recollection.
And Guru talks about, he's just not doing the basic things, meaning that he's a white belt. Transitioning over could be tough. But man, he's fighting the best fighters in the world. And unfortunately for him, I feel he's just a little too far behind the curb to be starting right now. Again, he has explosive striking and he has knockout power, obviously, against Josh Parisian. We got to see that. But I think the UFC is going to use him as a builder for fighters coming in.
Last question. If he solely focused on takedown defense, forget about sort of like grappling or getting out of positions, what would be the time frame for just having killer takedown defense, where at least he's got a shot at like not getting put on the ground? 6 months, a year, if that's primarily what he focused on. What do you think?
I mean, he could dedicate a year to it, but just that mat time that guys have been doing it for 20 years, and he's athletic enough. I mean, it's definitely, it's a possibility. I don't want to say it's impossible. It's just unlikely, man. Taekwondo guys just don't do very well, man. And it's just, I just think that I don't really care for their style. I mean, I like to watch it and I like to fight against it. But long term, I mean, there is Lyoto Machida, who had a karate style. There's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson that has a karate style. And people will say like, oh, well, it worked for Wonderboy. It's like, again, these are anomalies, guys. These guys are the best in the world at that. They're not just, that's not just their style. They're the best. That's like saying Bruce Lee's in there. Oh, well, he's the best at Jeet Kune Do. Yeah, but I mean, what about everything else? So I don't know, man. I see him as a gatekeeper again. I think he's too old to make a run. But with that being said, the heavyweight division is the easiest division, or it's the weakest division in my opinion, because I think the true athletes are going to like the NFL and the NBA when they're that size. You don't have LeBron James athletes coming to the UFC, because who wants to make 100,000 to get their ass whipped when they can go make 20 million and play basketball? So, we've talked about this before. We had a video about it before about the discrepancy in heavyweights. The heavyweights, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some good athletes, but it's not like the athletes you see at 170 or 155 or 145, the speed, the power, the technique. That's why Derrick Lewis has such so much success, is he's very, very athletic. But, you look at his body and you can tell like he can't train that hard and have that kind of physique. I'm sure he's very, very strong and I'm sure he trains hard, but how can you take if he's taking his diet serious? Who takes their fucking diet serious? Khalil Roundtree. Did you remember him at heavyweight?
No, but I don't remember the exact discrepancy. I know a lot of people talked about it because he's gotten shredded.
He was just this fat guy that had good kickboxing, and then he decided, he's like, you know what, I want to be a world champion. He started taking it serious, and now he's a 170 pounder, and he looks like a fucking bodybuilder. And I think a lot of these heavyweights could do that, and maybe not go down in weight, but at least tighten up a little bit. And I'm going off on a rant now, but long story short, I don't ever see him as the UFC champ. I see him as a gatekeeper for exciting fights.
All right. Well, cool. And that's what I'd like to see. I think it's exciting. I will watch his next fight, and I'm kind of curious to see, hey, does he develop some ground game? Does he develop enough to kind of keep it on the feet? So let's see. All right. Now we're moving on. Joaquin Buckley, in his hometown, St. Louis, gets on the card as the co-main. I don't know if you remember, but at the UFC 300 presser, he asked to be featured on that card, and he asked and he got it. Dana White was very laudatory when he discussed him and described him in his victory. He was so dominant up against a really, really, really tough opponent. Pretty much dominated the entire fight. Was incredible. But the thing I wanted to talk about, which was really weird at the end, and I want to get your opinion on this fact in particular. He called out Conor McGregor on the mic, like, and he's a welterweight fighter. He's doing great, but he called out Conor. He said a bunch of stuff. He, I think, saying that I can't remember exactly, but basically saying, "Hey, if you want a real fight at 170, I'm the guy." Blah blah blah. Some people were talking positively about it, like, "Hey, you got to shoot your shot. It's a great shout out." Calling out one of the biggest guys, the biggest guy ever to do it. And hey, kudos to him. I found it cringy. Like I found it just kind of silly. Why? It just made no sense to me. You're not even in the conversation to call him out. Like it, I don't. And then Dana White talked about it at the press conference later. They're like, "Do you think Joaquin?" He called out Conor. "Do you think that's a fight that's in possibility coming up?" And he paused for a second. He goes, "No." Hey, he just like said immediately no, which would be my feeling. It makes zero sense. So like, what are your thoughts about that from the fighter perspective? Why would a fighter do something like that that's just so outlandish, or do you think it was actually a good move, even though the fight is a complete impossibility?
I think it was the dumbest shit ever. Like, who is Joaquin Buckley? Like, we're talking about Conor McGregor, the highest gate seller, arguably one of the most popular fighters in the history of the UFC. Casual fans will say he's one of the greatest fighters to ever be in the UFC, which I obviously don't agree with.
Yeah.
But who's Joaquin Buckley? He has an incredible spinning back kick knockout, and he's beaten some guys, but that's a dumb call out. Here's the thing, guys. When you have that mic, you have for 30 seconds to 1 minute, everybody in the UFC world is listening to what you have to say. And then after that's done, they're either remember what you have to say or brush it under the rug. And guess what? Everybody, including me, you, Dana White, anybody on this stream, anybody in the UFC is like, "You're a fucking idiot. That's a fight that will never happen." Like, and why? Oh, he's going to try to get a red panty night. Like, whoever told him to do that is a fucking idiot. Like, dude, there's so many people that are in line to fight Conor McGregor right now. You got Mike Chandler coming up. You got Nate Diaz. You got Dustin Poirier. Joaquin Buckley, like, who are you, man? Like, and again, you're a great fighter. I'm not trying to talk shit, but that's the dumbest. You wasted your 30 seconds of fame, dude. You could have called out a top 15 guy, a top 10 guy, but you go
Top
right
10.
to the top that everybody in the whole history of the UFC wants to fight and call out. It was dumb. He blew it, and you know, and that's the thing. If he doesn't win his next fight or his next fight, the time you have on the mic, it could always be your last. Like, if he never wins a fight again and gets cut, he's never going to have that opportunity to make a call out. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, he wasted it. He lost it. And that really sucks, dude, because, I know how strong and athletic he is. He's just not in a position. That'd be like, that's almost like me calling out Conor McGregor. It's the dumbest shit. Like, Joaquin obviously is in the UFC and he's had some wins and shit, but I mean, he has as good a chance of fighting Conor McGregor as I do. It's just
Right.
not gonna happen.
And that was my feeling too. It just didn't make sense, which is why I felt like it was cringy. Like it's like you're just not paying attention. You're not locked in, and there's a disconnect. So that's why I felt it was almost a bit awkward. And he had such an amazing victory. People were going nuts for him. So maybe he got some bad advice from people. Maybe, I mean, we are talking about it, right? The one thing we always say, hey, if we're talking about it, maybe you're doing something right. But
how long are we talking about it though?
Yeah, exactly.
After this conversation today, I'm never going to talk about it or think about it ever again because it's so stupid and outlandish.
Yeah, and he's already ranked 11th. He's probably tomorrow. He's going to be in the top 10 in the welterweight division. So many exciting fights, dude. You should have called out Kobe. That would have been funny,
dude. That would have made sense. That would have made sense.
Yeah.
A real fighter, like calling out the guy that's held on a pedestal that literally has a line full of guys to fight. And it'd be the same as me winning my tough enough fight and calling Conor McGregor out. It's just not gonna happen, Joaquin. And sorry, dude. I know your coaches and stuff, and whoever advised you to do that, or maybe you just thought to do it and you thought it was a good idea. I mean, I'd hope you'd be smarter than that.
Yeah, well, all right. So that's kind of what happened. I just want to get your thoughts on it. I do want to see him fight again. He's amazing. He's an exciting fighter, got a great style, and let's see what happens. He's probably going to get a top 10 fight next. So congratulations to Joaquin Buckley, and let's see what goes down. All right, we're moving on to our final topic today, and this was in the Dana White post presser. If you guys did have a chance to watch it, it was pretty funny. One of the things that was brought up to Dana White was the Jones versus Stipe fight. Now, I've also been hearing about this a little bit more in other interviews, but it looks like it's going to be locked in. Oh, by the way, if you guys haven't checked it out, Stipe was also on the Jackson podcast recently, which was super cool because he doesn't like to do a lot of media and interviews. And I think one of the reasons why he went on there was, again, because Rampage Jackson is on that podcast. And I think he likes to do it with other fighters, right? Where there's like more camaraderie versus a reporter, maybe asking a gotcha question or this type of thing. But he went on there. He also talked about that fight, how much he wants John Jones. And I think they're planning to do it at MSG. Somebody asked Dana White at the presser, and he's like, sounds about right. The other thing that was also seems to be confirmed is I think they were planning originally to try and get it done this summer, but now it sounds like it's going to go down in November. So it looks like this fight's happening. Dana White was also asked about John Jones mentioning Alex Pereira as a fight, also talking about Tom Aspinall, all these other guys, but specifically Alex Pereira. What Dana White said in response was like, hey, this is John Jones just testing the waters, throwing out ideas, seeing what people think is interesting, not necessarily serious or not about Alex Pereira, but at the end of the day, the Stipe fight is happening. That's next. Okay, a lot of people are souring on this fight, saying, oh, these guys are too old, blah, blah, blah. I feel differently. Whatever it is, I still want to see the fight. I think it's still two greats going up against each other. I think it's interesting. And Stipe wants it. People aren't talking about that. Stipe wants the fight as well. And I think they want to fight each other. The UFC wants it. Let's make it happen. Justin, what are your thoughts on this fight now seeming to come to fruition in November?
I mean, this is the UFC gifting John Jones, in my opinion. I think Tom Aspinall is the best heavyweight right now in the world. Stipe was great during his time, but I just don't think he'll hold a candle to John Jones. Remember, John Jones is still young. Like, he's not 40 years old. Like, he's been in the UFC for 15 years, but he was in the UFC when he was like 20. So you guys, I think it's a gift, to be honest. I think it's like I'm not going to say a farewell gift because I don't think he's going to retire after. Well, he might retire after this.
Yeah.
And I just think Stipe, his last fight, he got brutally knocked out by Francis Ngannou. He beat Daniel Cormier like 5 years ago. Unfortunately, I just don't. I mean, for nostalgia purposes, sure, I'm sure I'll watch it. Fuck, I might even come to LA and watch it at your house. But it's not one I'm really like, oh, I'm gung ho about. I think it's easy money. Bet on John Jones, and it's a lock.
Fair enough. Okay, and I totally get that perspective. I do think as a story, if we're looking at John Jones's fighting career as a story, if it is the end, if it is the final chapter, once again, I do think it's a good ending. It is something I want to see because it's a great versus a great. And if he gets that win, what a way to go out! What a way to retire. If he chooses to fight Alex Pereira or Tom Aspinall next, great. I'll see that as well. I think all of them are incredible, but I do want to see it. And hey, let's see what happens. Stipe's still in there. He's still training, so you never know. All right, we got to wrap up, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. If we got new folks here, I see Larry CTM. Appreciate you. Appreciate the comments in the comment section. We really love the dialogue. Selena, Western Mass Climber, as always. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you guys do like this video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to join along with us on this ride, please click subscribe. We got content coming out every Monday and Friday in terms of the shows. And we're starting to do more videos. Did one off the cuff last week on Ryan Garcia. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to do more of those this week as well. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you next time. Take it easy.